A small country named Nejala was said to be on the brink of collapse from a war 6 years ago, but then they were saved by a mercenary group named Fierce Beast Mercenaries, and they prided themselves on being the strongest in the world, powerful enough to rival even 1,000 soldiers. However, down the passage of time, a rumor came to light, saying they also had a child who joined their group not that long ago and still contributed a lot to their victory. The scene shifts to the time years before the war, in the slums area of a city. A small boy, gasping for air from lack of energy, was walking slowly when a bunch of 2 men stumbled into him since they didn't notice the small child. But even so, they blamed the little one for not watching while walking. They insulted him, saying a pest from the slums shouldn't cross their paths, and without wanting to pay much attention to him, they walked past, thinking that slum boy would die eventually. A man observed what just happened, while the small boy somehow walked away from there, thinking back on his life. He don't know who he was, and all that he remembered was that he was raised as a monster. Every time he would think about dying, he would remember last words of his mother, which would stop him from throwing his life away. He stumbled into a rock and fell down, not being able to see properly from hunger. His mother's last words, "Don't die, my son, and find someone to love," kept him attached to last string of life. Even though he don't remember much about his parents, he still missed them a lot and wished they would bless him from the heaven. The man from earlier was watching our boy as his consciousness slowly faded away. His body grew cold, and he don't know when he fell asleep. Right then, someone asked him, was he alive? The boy panicked and found himself awake, feeling a little better, not knowing what happened to him. He realized that the man from earlier saved his life by giving him a pill, which revitalized one's body in one go. The boy can't believe he was helped by someone, while the man asked the boy if he could stand now. The nervous boy asked the guy who was he, but the man replied he's just a kind man on his way home from bar. He told the kid to be careful and eat something at home, because those meds could only give a temporary boost. The man walked away without thinking much, but after walking a bit, he noticed the kid was following him. He ran into some spiderwebs as well. Then he called out the boy, "What's he doing?" Boy muttered the word dad, wondering if this man was his dad, but that single word alone shattered the calm attitude of the man, and he shouted what the hell was he talking about. He declared being single and childless, and he's also looking for a girlfriend right now. But the boy mentioned that his parents helped him unconditionally, and so far, this guy was the only one after them who helped him. Besides, the belief since the guy saved him, he must have some more responsibility, or something that comes with it. The guy realized this brat was an orphan and tried to brainstorm some way to convince him to leave. Right then, he got an idea and said they should probably introduce themselves. The kid hadn't been asked to introduce himself before, so the guy started by giving his introduction so the kid could get an idea from it. He was Begonia, a swordsman from the Fierce Beast Mercenaries, but little one didn't know what mercenaries were. Begonia explained simply mercenaries are people that fight for money, then moved on to ask the boy's name and learned its will. Begonia remarked that's a nice name. Then he made a proposal for the boy, asking does he want to join his mercenary group, although warning him first that place is dangerous and there's a high chance of dying. So the boy would need to have a strong resolve. Will straight up reply that's fine with him and he'd like to join. Begonia thought the boy don't understand what he just said, but the boy was serious about it. His eyes said everything. Begonia wanted to scare off Will to make him leave, but since words didn't work, he asked Will to try to defeat him. If he passes this entrance exam, he could join their group. He gave a dagger to Will to try his hand at the test, but Will already knew he wouldn't be able to defeat Begonia. Begonia proudly claimed to be one of the top 5 swordsmen in the world. But what Will should be wary of was that his mercenary group have earned a lot of enemies everywhere, since they have taken on even entire empires and Holy Dragon Kingdom. Which was why he had to test the boy strictly, otherwise he can't join them. But when Begonia asked Will if he wanted to stop, Will didn't seem confident, but he felt compulsion to do it because his life won't change if he didn't do anything, and if he collapsed next time, he knows Begonia won't be there to save him next time. Thus, he prepared himself, thinking of his mother's last words again, to find someone he loves so much he won't let them die in any situation. Will's determination grew as he refused to die a pitiful life. When he opened his eyes, fueled by strong willpower, Begonia understood Will have made his decision just from one glance at those fired-up eyes. He unsheathed his sword, warning Will that he could die doing this. Will knew if he go back to that life, he would die anyway, so he must win this. He charged at Begonia with the dagger and ran towards him with all his might. Begonia intercepted the dagger with his sword and deflected Will, but the kid was a persistent one. Begonia can't believe a kid have that strong of a determination at that age, which made him change his mind a little about the kid. Will stated he was just pushed back, but haven't lost yet, so he would keep going. Begonia became a little serious now, since what he intended to use as an excuse to get rid of the boy turned out interesting, so he asked the boy with strong voice to come at him again. Suddenly, Will's body started leaking some black aura around him, as he voiced his resolve to not lose no matter what, and survive to become a mercenary. The black aura only grew thicker, and even Begonia could feel the pressure emitted by Will was looking like their captains. He wondered if that kid was driven solely by the will to live, and grabbed his sword tighter to prepare for next clash. Will also tightened his grip on the dagger, and dashed straight at Begonia, with deadly serious look in his eyes. Begonia was sure of it now. This guy was definitely going to be an essential part of their group, and he wanted to observe more of Will's power. However, the next moment Will's consciousness blacked out, and he collapsed on the ground from exhaustion. Begonia was reminded again that he was fighting a starving kid, and the kid's out of gas now. He feels sorry for taking things too far. He had to admit the kid fought like a warrior, and even Begonia himself didn't have this much fighting spirit when he was a kid. He made up his mind that even though the kid lost the challenge, he still earned the chance to meet their captain thanks to the potential he just showed. This encounter with Begonia was the first step in the birth of Will, who will soon come to be known as the disciple of mercenary corps who would shake nations alone. After a while, Will recalled that whenever he remembered his mother's last words, there were times he wasn't himself. He opened his eyes and saw a girl taking care of him. She told him Begonia would be back soon, but the boy was more curious about who she was and where he was right now. The girl introduced herself as Silk, the summoner of the Fierce Beast Mercenaries, also known by the nickname Beast Princess. She mentioned they were in an inn right now, which made the boy wonder if others from the Fierce Beast Mercenaries were here as well. Silk told him there were 8 total. Will asked her what exactly a summoner does, and she decided to show it instead. She was about to summon something, but Begonia stopped her in time, scolding her for almost blowing up the inn there. He told her the vice captain would scold her as well for being careless, but she didn't want to hear that from the guy who destroyed a liquor store in a drunken state. Will referred to Begonia as Dad and requested him not to get in the way. But Begonia shouted at him to stop calling him Dad already. Then Silk asked Begonia what happened with the vice captain. Begonia replied it might take a while, so why don't they have something to eat first? Silk doesn't believe they would be done anytime soon though, but Begonia assures her it'll be quick. Will questioned whether he failed the entrance exam, to which Silk replied that Begonia actually passed him with bonus scores from his performance. Will thanked Begonia, referring to him as father again, making Begonia shout the same thing. He's a single man. Later, they ordered food in the dining hall. Seeing so much delicious food on the table, Will was feeling excited because he had never eaten good food before. He quickly dived right into eating, then Begonia asked him if he hadn't been taught table manners before. In that case, he asked Silk to teach Will, and Will wanted to learn too. She liked how cute and cheerful he was, as she taught him about table manners. He learned quickly, which made her happy, and she took him in as her apprentice, asking Will to call her master from now on. Will quickly became accustomed to calling her master, while Begonia was getting a feeling like he was sitting with 2 siblings. Just then, Will remarked how Begonia was surprisingly good at eating neatly, which was quite rude from his perspective, and he claimed that a swordsman like him values courtesy and pride above all. But Will didn't even seem to be listening to him, as he was busy eating. Silk then referred to Begonia as Will's dad, asking what's up with the vice captain. Begonia was annoyed at being called that, and as for vice captain, they still have time. Will asked Silk to show him the summoning she was doing earlier, and she remembered they were interrupted by Begonia earlier. Begonia suggested they should go somewhere spacious first, and Will requested him not to interrupt them next time. Once they were at a good place, Begonia asked Will if he wanted to be able to use magic as well. Will agreed, claiming he wanted to be like his master. Silk expected as much from her disciple. Begonia mentioned he also uses magic, even though he's mainly a swordsman. Will asked if that's so, to which Begonia replied that everyone in their mercenary group was a professional magic user, so Will could learn from his master Silk without any problems. Will was determined to learn, but Silk made it clear that Will first needs to have an aptitude for magic. She decided to show how it's used and activated the summoning magic. Begonia got Will behind him, so he won't fly off from pressure and get a proper look at the summoning. Silk summoned a wolf-like beast, way larger than her, and yet it seemed obedient to her. Begonia stated that's the power of the strongest organization in the world, Fierce Beast Mercenaries, and what he just witnessed was the summoning magic of Silk, the Phantom Beast Princess. Will found it all amazing, and she told him that Fenrir's name was Little, and asked wasn't he cute. Will wondered if he could touch it. She assured him it's okay, Little won't bite him. Will instantly developed a liking for Little, and Silk liked how they got along with each other right away. Then Will asked Silk to teach him summoning magic. She wanted to, but it's too early for him. Begonia also stated could only be used after training, and first he needs to feel the magic. It took him like 3 months to do so. For Will, it might take 6. But to their surprise, Will claims to have felt it already, which leaves Begonia astounded, and he questioned it can't be possible. Will explained he felt some sort of murky feeling from the summoning earlier, as if his body was also responding to the flow of magic at that time, a feeling as if something was about to overflow and explode from his body. Begonia was reminded again why he picked up Will. It was related to the pressure he felt back then. Begonia wanted to confirm his doubts, so he asked Silk if she had a magic power measuring device on her. She also wanted to try it. She went for the device, and soon she brought it. A magic power meter, which was powered by the magic she sends to the handle. She asked Will to place his palm on it. Then the liquid inside the device will rise up and indicate the amount of magic power in Will's body. Even the halfway level was more than enough, and he didn't need to worry about being hurt from the device. Will was curious to find out if he could become a summoner, but she let him know it's still unknown, and this device only helps in checking the magic power. Will placed his hand under the meter. Suddenly, the liquid inside it began boiling rapidly and exploded. Silk has never seen such a reaction, meaning it's immeasurable. While Begonia's doubts were confirmed now, his eyes weren't deceiving him after all. Begonia decided that Will become part of their group and train him. Later, Begonia was driving a carriage, while Silk was traveling beside it on her summoned beast. She confirmed the area was all clear. He thanked her for patrol, and since the area was safe, he figured they would reach the headquarters in 2 days without any problems. Silk told him to still be on guard. Begonia knows she was right, but the thing they need to be more worried about was inside the carriage. Because in there, if Will failed to be recognized by their vice captain, he won't be able to join the group. A few hours ago, Begonia took Will to the place where the vice captain was, and he noticed Will was nervous. Will asked if the vice captain was a scary person. Begonia replied he was a difficult person, but he was much smarter and more reliable than them. But he was almost too serious and could get mad even at the slightest mistake. Begonia has been angered at many times because of that. Silk figures Will would be fine and sends him ahead saying they could handle things later. They saw the vice captain, and a guy turned out to be a man with glasses named Soul Leo. He was already mad about Begonia and Silk being 15 minutes late coming here, and he warned them to fix that bad habit already. Begonia was immediately all docile, wondering why the vice captain was in a bad mood today. Silk remained quiet to avoid any more scoldings. Then Soul Leo mentioned he already expected them to be late and factored that into schedule. So they had to leave now. Will thought he should introduce himself, but Soul Leo already had an idea of who he was. He instantly rejected taking in any child, saying there's no benefit of having a child in a mercenary group. If anything, he'll only be a hindrance for them. However, since he can't decide that alone, he decided to still let the child meet their captain and get the final verdict from him as he got into the carriage. Will looked over at Begonia and Master Silk if they would accompany him to the carriage, but they didn't want to sit with the angry vice captain and took on outside roles. And that's how Will ended up sitting in with the vice captain. He tried making a small talk with Soul Leo, but Soul Leo only gave uninterested replies, eventually turning down the conversation. Will asked the vice captain what he did not like about Will, to which he replied it's not about him not liking Will, but it's just that Will got a lot of weak magic, which would become a weakness for the whole group. Will assured he would become stronger, so he won't burden anyone, but the words alone didn't sit well with Soul Leo. So he reached out his hand for Will, telling him to prove it, that he's not a nuisance for their group. Suddenly, he activated his skill, which shocked the boy, as something opened right beneath them, and they got thrown out from a magic portal in another place. Will was all scared, while Soul Leo was chill, as he introduced his teleportation magic to Will. But Will doesn't understand how teleportation magic worked or what it was, and Soul Leo doesn't think it's relevant right now either. He mentioned that since Will already broke the expensive measure device earlier, he was already a minus for them to have. But he'll still give him one chance to turn that minus into a 0. He gave him the task to collect a rare flower, which was used to make that magic measuring device. And that flower was growing on the top of that steep rock in front of them. Although, he pointed out that Will first would have to get down from the tree he was stuck on. Will asked him to help, and once Sol Leo got him down, Will took up the challenge to get that flower so he would be acknowledged by the vice captain. Sol Leo nodded, but he thought it was an impossible task for a child like him. But Will already charged at the rock and started climbing on it with bare hands. But the rocks broke off, making him fall down on the ground on his back. Sol Leo tried talking down to Will, telling him to give up because it was too hard for a child. But Will refused to give up. Sol Leo mentioned even adults won't be able to do it without special training, let alone a child like him. In that case, Will decided to recall that feeling he got when he was fighting Begonia and use that dark thing from his body to climb up. Sol Leo was amazed by the child's perception, while Will sprinted towards the rock again. However, he felt his body was too light, and he couldn't stop himself from hitting the rocks ahead. A teleportation portal opens before him, and Will passes through the portal and finds himself in an unexpected situation. Then his speedy sprint was halted by Sol Leo, as he grabbed his collar and explained to him that he must not use magic with brute force. Will asked them what should he do, to which Sol Leo replied that first he must feel all the magic within his body. But Will could already do that, so he asked what's next. Sol Leo instructed him to slowly, consciously flow it throughout his body. From the top of his head to the top of his toes, feel the magic flowing through him. He should be able to do it, since he's been controlling some immense magic power since birth. Will thanked the vice captain and began doing what he advised. Slowly, he circulated the magic throughout his body, and the next moment, he could feel something was different, and Will was more confident in himself. This time, he took controlled steps towards a rock and jumped so high at once that he managed to reach the flower in a single moment. Will managed to obtain the flower, but after he plucked it, he lost his footing and began falling down on the ground. While he was falling, the vice captain saved him with teleportation magic and caught him in his arms. Will gave the flower to the vice captain with a determined look in his eyes. Sol Leo can't help but change his mind about the kid and mentioned he was going to leave Will at some orphanage earlier, but after he risked his life to take on the impossible challenge given by Sol Leo, he changed his mind. Moreover, it should not have been easy for Will, even with his current magic and talent. Yet, he took Sol Leo's advice and succeeded, which makes him think Will was at least less troublesome than other members of the group. Thus, he acknowledged him. Will was very much happy to be acknowledged by the vice captain, and they returned back to the carriage. In the carriage, the vice captain wrote a message to the captain, then sent it through the teleportation magic. Will was curious about the teleportation magic, and Sol Leo agreed to teach him about it later. Meanwhile, the captain received the letter, and after reading it, he was pretty excited to meet this kid, who managed to receive even the acknowledgement of Sol Leo. Later, while Will was sleeping, the same nightmares he had been having for years came again, of an old man treating him with cruelty and calling him a monster. Will only had painful memories and was never loved by anyone, but now, that was about to change as he got woken up by Sol Leo with a warm and kind smile on his face. He told Will they'll be arriving at HQ soon. Will looked outside through the carriage's window and saw the large city where his new life would begin. Once they reached HQ, Begonia informed them they were here, and Will got out excitedly and looked at his new home. Begonia stated their mercenary group's HQ was right in the middle of the capital. Then Sol Leo mentioned their leader was waiting, so they should move on. Will listened to the vice captain and followed him, while Begonia was pissed off, being ignored like that. Moreover, he was jealous that the vice captain hadn't made such a soft expression for him before. Silk claimed that's expected her disciple to be liked by everyone. Next, Will asked Sol Leo if they have a lot of people here, since it was a big house. To which he replied that's not the case, and just 8 of them are already an overwhelmed number. And upon entering the house, Will realized it was even bigger than how it looked from the outside. To think he would be living here starting today was really a heart-touching moment for him. Right then, Will sensed some dense magic flowing around the place. Begonia figured it's usual. This was their leader's mana leaking all over the place. Will was nervous about meeting the captain and asked Begonia if he was coming in together, but Sol Leo assured him the leader wasn't a bad person. They walked through the thick magic pressure and entered the captain's room, with Sol Leo letting the captain know they were back. The lion-faced captain welcomed them with a smile and his usual dense aura, and he was eager to meet this interesting kid they brought back with them. This lion beast man here was the leader of the fierce beast mercenaries, Rock. Rock apologized for his habit of intimidating people with an aura like that, but Will was unfazed by it and more worried about greeting the leader properly. Rock greeted the kid and was kinda impressed by the insane amount of magic power in the kid. It was even more than Silk, which made Rock curious whose kid was he. Begonia replied he found him in a back alley, which shocked the leader, and Begonia vouched for the kid's talent and requested the leader to take him in. Rock was having trouble saying yes, because in the end, even if Will got talent, he was still just a kid, and he couldn't allow it. Will was saddened upon hearing that he can't join, even after he finally met everyone. The thought of being alone again scared him, and while he was afraid, others were trying to convince the leader. Will was lost in the thought, now what? Then Rock spoke up that he can't take Will as he was right now, and he needs to get stronger. He also needs to learn to protect himself. Until then, Rock decided to take Will in the group not as a member, but as an apprentice. However, he made it clear Will would have to work hard as an apprentice. Now, firstly, he told Begonia to have Will take a bath, while Silk was to get some clothes for him. Will got to take a nice warm bath, and he was given some clothes, although they were a little big. He smelled something good, and figured he might be taken to dinner next. But while following the good smell of dinner, he reached the kitchen, and the chef asked who's there. It's not time for dinner yet, and he didn't know who this kid was either. Will introduced himself as an apprentice in the mercenary group. The chef was impressed to see he managed to get in despite being a small kiddo. He introduced himself as Wardock. Just then, Will recalled their leader's words that he would have to work hard and not freeload off them. It basically made him think if he doesn't work hard, he can't stay here. So, he asked Wardock to let him help out with the kitchen. Later, Begonia and Silk came and saw Will helping out already. Silk liked how hard-working Will was, and Begonia and the captain were impressed too. During the dinner, Will recalled that this situation right now was unthinkable from days when nobody liked him. And to think a day would come where he could eat warm food with others made him really happy, and he wanted to be more useful to everyone. Solio informed Leader Rock they got a new request, which was a night's job, and Solio suggested they should be fine with sending just Begonia or Silk. It's not large enough to get the captain involved. But Rock already made up his mind, and to Solio's surprise, he took Will along with him and headed off straight to the mission. Will didn't expect to be already being sent off to a mission, and Solio tried to convince the leader to take things slowly, but Rock just left without listening to him. Rock was flying from the powerful jump, while Solio was left unheard. Later, in the city, suddenly Rock landed down like a meteor, asking Will if he enjoyed the sky trip. Will didn't know the captain could fly, but Rock explained it was just a jump with body enhancement. It's the same as the thing Will did in front of the vice captain earlier. Will only knew he reacted to something gooey feeling, and he was curious why did the leader bring him along. Rock claimed he brought Will here for training, and having practical experience was the fastest way to learn. He mentioned the objective of the mission was to look for the culprit behind the recent kidnapping incidents and apprehend them. Will worried if he could be helpful. Rock told him it was impossible right away, and for starting, he would like to teach something to Will. Sometime later, a guy was running away in fear, shouting what the hell was wrong with that kid behind him. Turns out, Will was chasing the criminal and using the technique taught by the captain. He learned how to concentrate the magic flow into a single point to create a magic bullet. But Will was still struggling with the aim. Rock told him to focus. The image of the target was necessary to keep in mind. The criminal wondered why was the leader of beast mercenaries here, but he didn't get much time to think, as Will just jumped right beside the criminal, and he still couldn't properly adjust to the output of his power. But he wanted to learn ways to make up for his lack of experience, so he used his hands to get in the right position and shoot a magic bullet at the criminal. It created an explosion, and Will managed to catch the criminal. The suspect shouted why the hell leader of beast mercenaries here. Rock simply claimed to be out on training his apprentice. After their work was done here, they waited to hand over the criminal to the knights. Afterwards, Will asked the leader if he was helpful. Rock replied he was indeed super helpful, and he'll be even more helpful when he gets stronger. Will promised to train a lot in that case, and also help Wardock in the kitchen. Will was very happy carrying out his first mission successfully, and he was determined to work even harder. And 1 month later, Silk and Begonia seemed to have a problem at hand, as they didn't like how Will was overworking himself a lot, and they needed to have a meeting about it. They can't let a child work himself this much, and at this rate, he might break down soon. Will was basically doing chores until late night, then helping Wardock from early morning. Begonia mentioned how he tried to reduce Will's work, but the kid ended up training in that free time. He doesn't think Will knows how to rest, thus, they have to be the ones to teach him, since that's what adults do. They decided to take Will somewhere outside for a change. They went to Will and informed him he'll have a day off and don't need to work today. No training either, and he should go outside and play like a kid. Will replied he'll play after this and clean the upstairs first, then take out trash and all. But Begonia didn't like it and snatched the mop from his hands, saying he'll do all of that. Will became sad, thinking he has to work, because if he can't be useful, they won't let him stay here. He wondered if they were giving him a day off because he was useless, making him cry and worry about things too much. They calmed down the kid and realized that Will took the captain's words about not getting free meals to heart. Silk put the blame on Begonia for making the kid cry and told Will they know he's doing his best and he's already more than useful. Begonia added that's right, and everyone's helped by Will, so nobody thinks they don't need him. Begonia got an idea and told Silk to go out with Will. Later, Silk came out, apologized to keep Will waiting. She noticed Will was still in the apron and asked him why that was. Will replied it's all he has. Silk remembered she just gave him some clothes that might fit at that time, in which case, she decided they were going to buy some clothes for Will today. But Will was worried. He didn't have any money. She told him not to worry and just took him along, saying it's his day. Later in the city, Silk took Will to the Noble District, where she was planning to take Will to a good clothing store there. Inside the store, Will was confused while looking at the different clothes here. Then he told Master Silk that this place wasn't for him, since it was too expensive. Silk told him not to worry about money and to try the clothes she chose. Although the large pile of them surprised him, and he asked if she meant all of it. She wanted him to keep trying until he found what suits him. He changed into the first outfit and asked Silk how it was. She told him it looks good, but it was a bit too casual. So, she had him try a couple more clothes, and all of them seemed cute to her, but she made sure to keep his comfort in mind. However, even after dozens of changes, they still couldn't come to pick one that just stands out, and Silk moved on to the last dress. This time, the white dress almost suited him really well, and Silk didn't think twice and just went for it. After shopping for clothes, Silk was happy, but Will mentioned if a day off was supposed to be this tiring, he'd rather be working like usual. Silk realized she got carried away. Then she got an idea and asked him if he would like to take a tour to the royal capital's castle. She took him to the courtyard of the royal castle, and the green gardens there really held up the reputation of the royal castle. However, Silk could feel the presence of some odd nobles here, which she wanted to remain wary of. Will noticed the strange worry in Master's face and asked her what's wrong. She told him it's nothing. Then Will went to take a closer look at the beautiful flower garden. He enjoyed looking at pretty flowers and asked Silk to look at some of them too. Right then, someone else came and boasted to other noble ladies that he had invested a large sum in these gardens. This fatty noble here was Duke Berlin Base, and he thought just because he invested a little, this place was his as well. So, when he noticed a kid being so close to the flower garden, he straight up went and kicked Will and sent him flying just because Duke Berlin didn't like it. Will fell down a few meters inside, and Silk was worried for him, also pissed off about him being kicked out of nowhere like that. She checked up on his condition, while Duke Berlin recognized the Beast Princess from the Beast Mercenaries. Silk declared the kid Berlin just kicked was her disciple, and how dare he cause this outrage despite knowing that. Duke Berlin told her she should know better about who she was talking to. Duke Berlin Base, one of the most influential ducal houses in the kingdom. Silk shouted that there's no reason to kick Will, but the guy claimed he just removed a trash kid from his way. He also talked down to Silk, calling her worthless trash from Beast Mercenaries, which didn't have a noble status like him. Will became furious, and he warned Duke Berlin not to speak a single bad word for their mercenary group. He will not tolerate insults to his family. Duke Berlin didn't want to tolerate some lecture from a kid, and just called up guards on them. Silk changed her tone, and let everybody know that the kid there was her apprentice. Only those who don't care about their lives can step forward. She told the guards to get lost before they piss her off anymore. Her aura intimidated the guards, and Duke Berlin yelled at them for just standing there. He ordered them to just do something. That Beast Princess was nothing but a commoner from another country after all. Silk's mood was ruined, and she decided to just take her leave, and took Will along with her. Duke Berlin kept shouting at her, while she left quietly, without making a scene. She apologized to Will later, since it was supposed to be a holiday, but now it's turned into a mess. She claimed it's all because of that milk woman, who's the biggest troublemaker of their mercenary group, named Sharnoa. Apparently, Sharnoa had a very bad temper, and she once beat up the son of Duke Berlant to half-death state. Either way, Silk asked Will if his belly was okay where he was kicked. Will replied he was fine, since he had been keeping his body enhanced this whole time. Silk was amazed upon hearing that, because even though she felt a faint mana around him, she didn't expect he was maintaining body enhancement this whole time. To do that at his age was a tremendous feat. Then she asked Will if his magic bullet training was going well. Will showed it to her, and claimed it's kind of fun practicing it every day. Silk realized Will really liked training a lot, more than relaxing around, in which case she decided to do something he would love. She asked him if he wanted to get his magic aptitude checked to see what kind of magic Will could use, ranging from elemental-type magics to special magic aptitudes like Vice Captain's teleportation. They could do it another day if he'd like, but Will was eager to know if he could get stronger if he knew that. She agreed that's right, in which case he wanted to go right away. She knew he would say that, thus she had already planned to take him to the Magic Association. Will can't wait to see what the Magic Association was like. After arriving there, she asked him what magic he most wanted to use. Will wanted to become a strong summoning magic user, just like his master. And she let him know that chances of becoming a summoner were very low. But it's possible if it's Will, who has great potential. When she entered the tower, all the staff ran around like crazy to see Lady Silk was here. She was really respected in the Magic Association, since they knew how rare of a talent she was, and they had the finest room prepared for her. Will noticed the people around them were in a hurry. Then one of the staff members asked Lady Silk what brought her here today. She replied that she wanted to check her apprentice's magic aptitude, and the guy asked if that kid was her apprentice. Will was curiously looking around the place, while Silk let them know this kid was indeed her apprentice. The guy was surprised to hear that, and showed her the way to the room. Others standing by can't believe Phantom Beast Princess really got an apprentice, and one too young at that. While Silk and Will were on their way, Will asked her if the master was really amazing, judging by everyone's reaction around her. She confirmed she was indeed amazing, and he was too, since he was her apprentice. She reached the room prepared by the staff for her use. Here, she wanted to teach Will a little about his aptitudes before they checked his. She switched into her teaching mode, and she wanted Will to listen to her carefully from now on. The guy from earlier was thinking it's a luxury to get to study with Lady Silk in a private room. While inside, Silk explained to Will that the current skills that Will was using, body enhancement and magic bullet, were counted in basic skills, which simply uses magic. And what she's about to teach him now was a higher form of magic that changes depending on his aptitude. Moreover, there are mainly two types of magic aptitude. One was elemental magic, which most people have. It gives the mages control over fire, water, and other elements. The second type was special magic, one which couldn't be categorized by attributes, just like Vice Captain's teleportation magic and Silk's summoning magic. But because they were special, only 1 in 10,000 people had aptitude for them. Will didn't know magic could be limited person to person, and with this, she dismissed the class and said it all depends on Will now. She told him to place his hand on the crystal. Will wondered if he could become a summoner. He placed his hand, and the crystal reacted by showing him gray mist. Silk was happy with the results, and she knew they were a bit similar since they met, as she patted his head. Silk told him that his aptitude was summoning magic. Will jumped in joy to have the same aptitude as Master. She asked him if he wanted to try summoning some monsters right now. Will didn't think it could happen this quickly, and they exited the room, then saw the staff guy from earlier. He greeted Lady Silk and her apprentice again, and Silk told him they were heading off to the basement now. The guy casually asked how the magic aptitude test went, while thinking inside that no way a kid would have any aptitude at this age. But he kept the pretense on the surface, until he heard the kid got aptitude for summoning magic. The guy was left speechless, while Silk just went ahead with Will. The guy knows fully well how rare it was to get the aptitude for Summoner, and to think that Summoner Kid was acknowledged by Lady Silk even before having his aptitude checked means that he would become a big deal in the future, so the guy must remain on the good side of the kid. Will followed Silk to the basement of the association, only to find that there was a whole training facility built underground. Silk stated it's perfect for training, since barriers were set up on the walls and ceiling, and now, she figured they should start summoning right away. Everyone in the place was excited to see Beast Princess here and wanted to get an autograph, while some of them wanted to challenge her. Silk summoned her Beast Fenrir, Little, and told him to make space for them. people were excited upon seeing the legendary beast Fenrir, until they noticed the command it was given was to wipe them off. After some chaos, some space was reserved for them, and Will felt sorry for the poor guys. Now, Silk drew a magic summoning circle on the ground, which was very important to avoid a situation where the summoned demon might attack them. This should do it, and now they were all set for Will to start summoning. She told him to chant the word summon while standing inside the circle. Will was very nervous about summoning a demon from another world. The moment he began summoning, he could feel an enormous amount of mana being drained from his body. Silk asked him if he's okay, and he replied it's making him feel a little sick. Silk was on her guard because, judging by the impossible amount of magic the summoning was demanding, it's possible something bad might be coming. She suggested he stop, but Will wanted to see this through and determined himself to remain conscious till the end. Silk called Fenrir just in case, because even though she had perfectly drawn the magic circle, she didn't want to take any chances. By this amount of magic, it's possible for even a dragon or griffin to be summoned, or in the worst-case scenario, one of the legendary 7 calamities. Will put all concentration on finishing the summoning, and the dense amount of mana began spreading around the whole basement. Silk was ready for anything if things went south, but once the summoning ended, she couldn't believe her eyes. She heard Will calling it cute, as it turns out that he summoned a slime, aka the weakest monster. To think only a slime was summoned by that much of Will's magic power, which was enough to summon a world-destroying monster, was just strange. She suggested to Will they could reverse summon the slime, but Will wanted to keep it. In that case, she told him to give a name. If the slime accepts the name, the summoning contract would be finalized. Will looked at the slime and decided to name it Emu. The slime seemed to like the name and jumped on his head, as if to show she liked it. Silk told him the contract was completed, and she asked him if he would like to try summoning another demon. Will asked if it's possible, to which she replied that slimes alone won't be enough in a battle, and it should be possible with Will's magic power to summon another one. Will decided to give it another try, hoping that a strong monster would come next time. He activated the summoning once again, and this time it didn't feel as much toll taking as previously. And from this summoning, he summoned a goblin this time, with a spear as his weapon. Silk can't believe this either, another weak monster like a slime, and she suggested Will to reverse the summoning this time. But Will claimed since the goblin answered to his summoning, he would like to respect it and keep him. Silk figured if he's fine with it, then it's okay. Will thought about a name for the goblin and decided to go with Cobra. The goblin liked his name, and the contract was formed. However, Silk still had an uncertain feeling because the amount of magic power used doesn't match the summons. It just makes her more curious about Will's existence and mysteries surrounding him. 2 weeks later, Will was telling Emu not to eat everything she comes across and told her to be a good boy like Cobra. Cobra used to practice most of the time with his spear, and he was a hard-working one just like Will. Cobra could speak, so he stated he was currently weak and wanted to be stronger. Will was with him in the training to become stronger and wished to do their best together. Will then went to do the laundry. Out of nowhere, a woman came to him, claiming she was looking for him, the rumored Shorty. Will asked who she was, and she introduced herself as Sharnoa. Will recalled she was the one Silk told him about yesterday, the biggest troublemaker of the group. Sharnoa didn't exactly like being called that, and that aside, she just decided to take Will along with her on a mission right away. It was too sudden for the poor kid, while Sharnoa didn't care, and just sweep him away at a high speed. Meanwhile, somewhere in a shady building, some slave traders were handling the merchandise, along with a dangerous monster placed in a cage for some ulterior motive.